Hey there, I'm Ian.
And I'm Mike.
And this is Grizzly Talks. Welcome back to the Grizzly Bar. In memory of summer, we are going to make an orange mule. Now, you can make mules a few different ways, but one of the things about my mules is the flavors all go together. And one of the biggest complaints whenever I've heard people talk about their mules is that, or Moscow mules, is that it tastes too much like ginger beer. And so today we're going to make an orange mule, and we're going to add a little fruit, make it a little fruity, just in memory of summer. You can add anything you want. It's dealer's choice when it comes to that. So stick around. Let's make a mule. Alrighty, let's make this mule. So there's a few ways to make a mule. I'm going to make mine very special in a way that everyone can enjoy it. One of the things that I've heard about mules is that when people are drinking them, the ginger beer is overpowering, or their mule just tastes like ginger beer. And when you're drinking anything, you want to enjoy it. You want all those flavors to go together. So let's make this. Throw a little sugar in there. Get it muddled up. Make one drink for myself, one for Michael. Throw a few berries in there. And well mixed up. Half for me, the other half for Michael. Alrighty. Now you guys all remember that video of that one lady who was pouring herself some vodka, and she's like, 2 shots of vodka. Well, we're gonna do just that. Now this is for 2 drinks. I mean, you can do it for 1. That's up to you. I like to add fruit to my drinks. Makes it a little more fun. Let's crack some of these. We'll just measure it out, you know. Not that we need to, but just for everyone's enjoyment. Just chilling that alcohol. Again, this is for 2 drinks. So we're gonna even it out somewhat. Need a special ingredient to make sure everything flows together is Sprite. Now I know a lot of you will be like, well, that's a different drink or whatever. This is how I make my mules. Give that a little stir. Those flavors going together. A little summer orange. And that, my friends, is how I make my mules.
Hey, welcome back to Grizzly Talks. Today we are talking about bugging out and the firearm you keep with you.
That's right, Michael. Today we've chosen the 9mm hi-pointe. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more outside as we hit the gun range. But this is my gun of choice for bugging out, just because of its concealment, also its durability, and you can use it to go out to long range if you need about 100 yards. I've shot this at 100 yards and works pretty well for me.
That's nice. Okay, yeah. 100 yards, you need a really good bugging out kind of rifle. And like Ian said, the hi-pointe 9mm carbine is just a fantastic option for it. Threaded barrel, Picatinny options on the 12 and 6 o'clock position. We've got a bipod thrown in, you get a pistol grip, and it has a really good shock absorbing buttstock back here at the end, which Ian will go into a lot more detail once we go outside. But for bugging out purposes, the whole point of bugging out and needing something that works like this is, one, this shoots a pistol caliber rifle, 9mm, and you can carry a lot more of those than you can a 5.56. We can throw something up on the screen of the difference between the size of those two rounds. But this is, like he said, more concealable. This is smaller. This is going to be with you when you are running and surviving. Because the point of bugging out is not to fight back. You're leaving. You are running away. But you don't want to leave empty-handed. So that's why we decided to go with this beautiful 9mm carbine for our rifle of choice. Ian, if you want to take that, we're going to move on to the other piece of our bug out equipment, which is everything else on our back. Now we're going to go ahead and omit everything that you should be wearing, proper footwear, proper headwear, things like that, and always wear a belt because that shit doubles as a tourniquet. But what else? If you need to grab a bag, what else would you take with you? We're going to go ahead and open this up. And Ian, I'd like to get your thoughts on a couple of the pieces that I've got here. But before we do, let's go ahead and talk about this backpack. What do you notice about this backpack?
Looks pretty tactical.
Yep.
Looks more of a perfect bug out just because of, I see the water pack.
It does. It does have a camelback hose attached to it. This came with it. You can see a little more up close. This is tactical, like Ian said. It's got the MOLLE here. Lots of zippers and pockets, and it's very big. This is a military backpack. I got this when I graduated from basic training. So I've had this for a very long time. I like it for my bug out purpose for two reasons. One, it has a great size to it. This is a mid-tier. I do have a full rucksack that is camouflage. We'll get into that in just a moment, but the size of it is perfect. I can sneak in and out of buildings if I need to, if I'm being stealthy. I can carry a lot of stuff if I need to because it does have a lot of pockets and a lot of size that it can span to, and it does cinch down with some of the buckles on the side to make it even smaller. So this is a great bug out bag if you just need to grab something and go, and you would be packing a lot of stuff in here. The other reason why I like this is because it's black. It's very low key. When I deployed, I was given a rucksack that was as big as I am, and this thing was digital camouflage, which is what we had at the time, and it just screamed military. Now, if you're bugging out and you're trying to survive out there, you're trying to keep a low profile, right? Yeah. You want to blend in. You're being the gray man. You don't want to draw any attention to yourself. So if you have this giant military camouflage backpack, you are going to stick out like a sore thumb. I'm sorry to say it, camouflage, we just talked about this in our previous episode, but you are wanting to go stealthy and tactical, not military and camouflage. So, with that out of the way, let's open this up in our big pocket. Now, one of the first things, Ian, that I like to pack is my cold weather gear.
All right.
Because we live in a northern climate. And again, with the black, this will keep you warm. You can layer this. I assume you've got some sort of cold weather gear that you like to pack away. Yep. What do you typically use?
All right, so I like to run with a wool blanket similar to this, just a little more, keeps a little more of the heat in.
It does, and that's why I chose this option here. You get to be moving around at night, you can blend in, you can convert yourself to kind of the dark colors, and you're kind of a ninja if you need to. So we're gonna move that out of the way. That is some of the cold weather gear that I like to pack in my bug out bag. You can see this shiny thing here. This is a homemade packable stove. My brother made this for me, oh my goodness, 10, 12 years ago. These are commercial nowadays. You will find them in a lot better manufactured condition. Yeah. But my brother made this for me, and I've had it this entire time. A fluid, spark, and everything else that you would need in here, including a shroud and a cup. It's just all, it's got to come back. It hasn't been been moved in quite some time, so it would need some jostling to pull this back out. But I never considered bugging out without having some sort of a food stove. And the handmade ones,
good to have.
Good to have. You probably have something similar when it comes to, I don't know, like a butane torch, or what other options have you seen in the market for survival stoves like this?
Well, the flint and steel is one of the most common. People just like that. Keeps it going.
You can't go wrong with the basics. Yep.
Correct.
And that's why something like this will keep you going out when you are bugging out and surviving in the wilderness. The next piece of gear that I always have on me, and this is important, you never see me without a hat, and attached to this I've got a carabiner with some fingerless gloves because I like to protect my fingers. Now, this hat has an extra piece of functionality. You can kind of see it reflecting here. This has flashlights built in. So I also do have flashlight clips that go on my hats, but if I'm bugging out, again with the black, trying to blend in, and then just one click, I've got visibility into everything that I'm looking at. So there are a couple of staples that I wear in my attire, a lot of black, hats, gloves, things like that, and boots. Okay. So is there anything unique that you typically wear, or are you pretty standard?
Yeah, pretty standard on the hat. Gloves as well, nothing too crazy.
Yeah. You don't want to stand out too much. The whole point of this is survival, and things that work are the core things that everybody's already got. Let's move on to another core piece of this, and that is my survival knife of choice.
There you go.
This is the Bear Grylls edition of the Gerber survival knife. And I don't know if you've seen this one. I think you might even have a version of this. I like this for several reasons. It is full tang. There's limited Velcro that is not required to secure the knife for long periods. It really is just more for storage and travel. But Velcro, we all know how loud Velcro is, right? Yeah. So this just allows you to put that aside and use it in the classic clip. This also has a built-in knife sharpener here underneath. So you've got that. You also have options here on the knife. You can kind of see these holes here. You can intertwine this with 550 cord, which I also have in here, and turn this into a spear. So this can become more than just a tool. This can become a weapon if need be. There's also options here on the back, for flint and steel. This also comes with its own built-in flint and steel, right? So you can have fire starter right there on the field. Right on. And this also comes with basic survival techniques, SOS, long-range communications, things like that, Morse code. So basic survival. This will keep you surviving probably longer than most anything else in my kit, and that's why I chose it. The next thing I talk about is kind of in the same family. Ian, I'm sure you've got one of these as well. This is my machete. Now this is a Kabar. I've had this for a very long time. Kabar, K-bar, not sure how you pronounce it. Either way, it's sharp and very pointy. So I like the feeling of the rubberized grip in my hand. Go ahead and feel that. Just the thickness of the blade, the length of the blade is very good. I am more of a CQB.
Very comfortable.
It's very comfortable, right? I'm very close quarters. So if I'm going to be using this for any reason outside of a tool perspective, right, cutting down foliage, if I need to use this for whatever reason, it's not very long and unwieldy, I can use this thing at a close quarter and I know where every inch of it is. So this, coupled with my survival knife that we just talked about, also acts as melee protection, self-protection. So self-defense, excuse me. So just another reason to have this. But you will be chopping wood. You will be building shelters. You will be probably going through the forest and trying to survive. So having a machete is more than just a self-defense tool. It is a survival tool, and one that I never skimp on.
All right.
Moving along, we have a monocular. I like having one monocular because a lot of times you will find people who don't know how to use binoculars. And if you can eliminate half of it and simplify it, a lot of people can have a better.
Yeah, when you're trying to adjust those two eyes, you're just like, what am I looking at?
Exactly, right?
I have a single monocular, and I choose that over the bi situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't use my my Binox as much as I use my monopod. So I love this thing. Speaking of pod, it does screw in. So if you want to use this in a stable position, you can. It does have a range finding position or capabilities as well, so you can kind of zoom in and out. So I like to have a monoscope for kind of personal reasons. Plus, if I've got somebody else assisting me, it's just easier overall. For sleeping purposes, I like to have just something simple, a pillow just to protect my neck and keep my head up off the ground. We will get into survival shelters in a future episode. Maybe you'll even see Ian and I out in the woods trying to survive a little bit. The last big piece, and we've got some small stuff in here like binoculars and pocket knives and flashlights and all the stuff that you would typically have. But the last really important thing that I have is my drone. And you're thinking, wow, a drone, that's going to be very short-lived. And yes, and if you don't have some sort of renewable energy source, the batteries are not going to last you a long time. But the recon that you can do with a drone for 15 minutes before going into a scenario, into any area, that's going to save your life. You lose a drone, so what? Go raid a Dick's Sporting Goods. There's 20 of them in there, right? Like this $15 thing from overseas that has 15 minutes of a flight time and a 720 HD camera is going to be my best friend out there.
Correct.
You know, this kind of thing is going to give you more information and more insight into what you're potentially dealing with. And if it doesn't go right, if it goes south, you go the other direction. So that's why I personally like to have a drone in my bug out bag. So those are just a couple of the more unique things that you might see, some of the standard things that you might see as well, some of the homemade things that we have, and some of the personal things that we have as well. So, Ian, is there anything else that you have thought about for bugging out? We also have a camelback here, which we mentioned earlier. Anything else you'd like to add?
One thing that I like to keep in mind is just a small tarp. You never know when it's going to be rainy, and if you're stuck in a situation where there's almost zero shelter, just throwing that tarp over yourself can keep you dry. And hypothermia is kind of a big issue up here in the north when it gets cold at night, especially now that it's fall. You kind of have to worry about that. So I always like to keep a little tarp, just a little 4x4, something you can get under and stay safe and
stay dry.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you at the range. All right, welcome back to Grizzly Talks. Today we are out at the range and we are going over something a little bit special that Ian's got in his hands here. Ian, why don't you introduce us to this?
So this is a hi-pointe carbine, chambered in 9mm. It is a very handy dandy gun for when you're trying to bug out.
Absolutely.
It's just, in my opinion, you got the barrel length for a little more pressure to send that bullet a little farther if you need to. I've shot this at 100 yards and heard the ding of the target. So we're going to be running the Fairfield optic. Not a sponsor, just for fun. A few things that I really like about this is that this 9mm is now considered a rifle. So that's why I like it. It's got the grip, and then I put the little forearm grip just for more stability. The stock, it's kind of like a shock.
I see that. It's got some movement to it.
So when you're pulling the trigger, to stay a little more on contact, you got that
extra little bit.
It blocks the bullet, or blocks the
recoil.
The recoil. Yeah. Thank you. Other than that, it's very easy to assemble. Disassemble, I should say. Got two little pins.
Breakdown pins on this one side.
Kind of like your AR platform.
Very similar. Yeah.
I mean, I've had this gun for probably about 3 years now.
Really? And
I've cleaned it numerous times. I've never had any issues. You hear people talk about, well, it's a hi-pointe. It sounds like trash. The hi-pointe pistol, I'd never trust myself with that. It's just a gun that no one really likes. Has a lot of malfunctions. So it's a hi-pointe carbine. I would highly recommend if you're wanting the bug out aspect.
Right. You still got that 9mm aspect, smaller rounds.
Yep.
But you get the stability in the range with having a carbine. I love this thing. This thing is gorgeous. We've got Picatinny on the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock, not only down here underneath the handguard, but underneath the barrel as well. If you wanted to have something a little bit more extended, maybe a bipod or a laser, things like that. So you do have some customization here, but it is limited up to the front. Pistol grip,
Yep.
Pistol grip. Standard controls. You've got a thumb activated safety over on the left hand side. Charging handle is on the left hand side. So very standard to your AR controls as well. It's just a 9mm pistol carbine. So very intuitive to what we're talking about today, bugging out. This would be the kind of rifle, or excuse me, pistol caliber carbine that I would probably take out if I was in a bug out scenario, moving around the wilderness, trying to stay quiet, concealed, carry a lot of ammo on me, but still have that stability for long range shots before I enter an area. So we are gonna put a few rounds down range with this puppy, and Ian is gonna show us how it's done. Stay tuned for next time.
Alrighty, let's shoot some shit.
All right, that's it for another episode of Grizzly Talks. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Crack a little ginger and crack the Sprite. Not again. This is just how I make it. I'm really having a bad day.